So, a couple of weeks ago I said this. Marvel's Spider-Man 2. If you followed this channel for a while, you already know how much I love that game. I always find an excuse to talk about how cool it is, and I truly believe it's the best Spider-Man game in terms of swinging mechanics ever made. But today, we're going to discuss Peter Parker and MJ. First off, we can't ignore the fact that MJ doesn't look anything like she did in the first game. Reviewers and journalists can't just say, "Oh, MJ aged a bit." That's not how aging works. Nobody ages 2 years and completely changes their physiology. All of a sudden, she goes from this cute girl with big eyes to having a pronounced jawline, and her nose changes form too. Look, I'm not saying MJ looks terrible in Spider-Man 2. If this were her character model in the first Spider-Man game, there would probably be zero drama around her appearance. But now, she's completely unrecognizable. Judging players for noticing this is in poor taste. Now let's talk about Peter Parker. What's going on there? He went from being a decent, good-looking guy who looked like an experienced adult in Spider-Man 1 to looking like a teenager in Spider-Man Remastered and now like a model in Spider-Man 2. And you try to explain that the characters aged? Yeah, Peter aged into a Justin Bieber lookalike in Spider-Man Remastered and then evolved into Justin Timberlake in Spider-Man 2. Meanwhile, MJ aged into a completely different person. Having said that, today I'm going to explain why Spider-Man 2 is one of the best games ever made. And if you've never played this game, this is the perfect video for you. Don't worry, there won't be any story spoilers. Alright guys, here we go, diving straight into the heart of New York City. No HUD, everything's off, so it's just us and the web. Look at the detail on these buildings. You can see every brick as you swing by, and the reflections on the windows are insane. Insomniac really outdid themselves with this one. The way the buildings pass by so fluidly, it feels like you're actually Spider-Man. It's moments like these that remind me why I love these games. Pure freedom. I love the momentum here. Watch how when I let go of the web, Spidey free falls for a second, and then whoosh, back into the swing. You can almost feel the G-force. It's like the city is alive, breathing with you as you swing through it. Listen to that wind. Total immersion. It's just Spidey, the city, and me. I feel like I could swing around here forever. Look at this. Dodging between traffic, zipping over rooftops, no distractions, no health bars, just pure Spidey vibes. You've got to appreciate how seamless it all feels. This is why I turned off the HUD. It's so much more intense when you have to rely on your instincts. Every web swing feels earned, and you're not getting any hints from the game. You really start to notice the little details, like the pedestrians below reacting to you, or how the sound shifts as you swing closer to the ground. I could do this all day, honestly. It's like meditation, just getting lost in the rhythm of the city, feeling the weight of every swing, the tug of the web, and then you've got the score that kicks in every now and then. It really makes you feel like you're in one of the movies.
Insidious dilemma we face is that of the faceless. It seems another masked vigilante is bringing their illegitimate...
The wingsuit acts as a supplement to web swinging, and while I had my concerns that it might overshadow swinging, that isn't the case at all. It's difficult to gain momentum in the wingsuit, but easy when swinging, and while it's tough to maintain speed when there's nothing to swing from, that's when gliding comes in handy. The two mechanics complement each other beautifully, and now that I have them, I don't know if I could ever go without them. Speeding through the wind tunnels like a bullet train, shooting out the other side towards the sky, and then diving straight down to transfer all that momentum into a web swing before opening the web wings again just never gets old. Every ability from the previous games returns here, and Peter even gets his own mid-air dash and jump thanks to his spider arms. If you like the swinging in the last two games, you'll love it here. It's better in nearly every way. The swinging is amazing, but the combat, next level. Watch this. I'm gonna dive straight into these goons. Boom, web strike takedown, instant. The way you can string together attacks and web abilities is just so fluid. It's like Spidey's flipping through the air, hitting every angle. I love how they made him feel so agile but powerful at the same time. And check this out. Parry that punch, web is buddy to the wall, and we're already bouncing to the next guy with a combo. They've added so many new mechanics here. You've got the ability to switch between Peter and Miles on the fly, and each has their own unique skill set. And one of the best changes is how abilities are now on cooldowns, with the focus bar strictly used for healing. This solves some balancing issues, especially for Miles, without making either character feel underpowered. Both Peter and Miles are still powerhouses, but instead of nerfing them, it's the enemies that got a buff. The enemies you fight now take a lot of damage. While some reviews criticize them as damage sponges, I actually enjoyed it because it gave me more time to juggle enemies, sending them from ground to air repeatedly. Parrying is essential for survival, especially against the new brute enemies. While it might seem out of place in a Spider-Man game, it actually elevates the combat experience. The new enemy types are also a welcome addition, as they challenge you in different ways. It's no longer just about juggling 5 enemies at once. You have to manage ranged enemies, ones with EMPs that can suppress Miles's powers, rocket-launching enemies, and shielded foes. It can feel overwhelming at times, but those moments when you hit a flow state and dance your way through an encounter are truly golden. Despite the tougher enemies, the game still gives you that power fantasy. Peter's black suit rage mechanic lets you pummel enemies without restriction, really showcasing the power of the symbiote. This is all without even diving into the boss fights. You can easily switch things up if you want to change your playstyle, and if that playstyle happens to involve a lot of stealth, you'll be very happy with the newly added web lines. These allow you to create your own paths to sneak around after unlocking the tech during the main mission, Bad Guys on the Block. You can hold L2 and press triangle to create a line that you can walk across. These lines can also be connected to one another, so you can use them to create your own web of walkways and sneakily take out enemies with perch takedowns. It gives you more freedom to pick your own angle and approach, so I definitely appreciate the addition. However, you do need to think about your placement since you can only have 6 of these web lines in existence at a time. Speaking of freedom to pick your own approach, fast travel has also seen a significant change. You can now pinpoint a precise location on the map to spawn in. This new feature lets you pick the exact spot you want to go to, which is, of course, super convenient. But you do need to earn this ability for each district by completing activities in that area of the map. Each district now offers 3 rewards for completing these objectives, with the second reward being a fast travel unlock. Bigger activities like side missions reward more progress than smaller ones like photo ops, so focus on those if you want to unlock fast travel as quickly as possible. And yes, this new fast travel system means the subway scenes from the previous games are gone, but in exchange, we now have fun scenes that trigger when you switch between both Spider-Men. There are way more big changes in Spider-Man 2. If you like the video so far, be sure to leave a like as it really helps a lot. And subscribe as well if you're into PS5 exclusives and all PS5 and PS5 Pro news. In addition to the big changes, some gameplay systems have also seen a significant overhaul. We still have the familiar focus bars that you build up with combos and can then spend on takedowns or to heal yourself. Many of your basic moves, like air launches and swing kicks, also return. But, like I said, there are some big changes too. The gadget system has been heavily streamlined compared to the first Spider-Man. You no longer have a gadget wheel, and you don't need one as there are only 4 gadgets to unlock. These are accessed by holding R1 and pressing one of the face buttons, which makes using them much easier during combat. You might have fewer gadgets, but they can still be upgraded, and you still have tons of options in combat thanks to the new abilities. Technically, Miles already had these during his game, but Peter now also has multiple unique abilities that are very powerful, though they need to be recharged after use. What's new for both Peter and Miles is that each ability set now has multiple abilities you can swap between. So, Miles can swap between his regular Venom and his electric blue attacks, or use a combination of both. The same is true for Peter, who can use his spider arms, symbiote powers, or a combo of the two. Speaking of symbiote powers, Peter also has access to a new ultimate type ability called Symbiote Surge that is incredibly powerful. After the meter is filled up, you can activate it by pressing both sticks to transform Peter into a symbiote powerhouse. Attacks become much more powerful, and low-health enemies are instantly killed off with a brutal finisher that doesn't cost you any focus to perform. It's very satisfying to mow down groups of enemies with this ability, as you are pretty much unstoppable while Surge is active. Miles also has an ultimate ability, which is the returning Mega Venom Blast that he gained access to near the end of his previous game. It's a very powerful AoE ability that can easily clear a large group, so it's smart to use these abilities when you are heavily outnumbered. These ultimate abilities are awesome, but they do replace the suit powers from the first game, and there are also no suit mods like in Miles Morales, which means that suit unlocks are now purely cosmetic and don't unlock any additional benefits. However, there is additional variety in the fact that many suits now have alternate variants that change the color scheme. You can see if an outfit has variants because it has diamonds underneath, and these variants do need to be unlocked separately. The cost isn't too high though, much less than unlocking the regular regular version of the suit. So, if you love a suit's design but don't like the color, there's a high chance there's now an alternate variant that you will enjoy. One of the biggest surprises for me in Spider-Man 2 was how much they improved the boss fights. Compared to Spider-Man 2018, where most of the boss fights were fun but pretty straightforward, here, the stakes feel a lot higher, and the challenge has been cranked up significantly. You might actually die a few times, which was a bit of a shocker, especially if you go in thinking it'll be the same as the last game. The fights demand a lot more focus and strategy now. You can't just web swing your way to victory. You've got to time your dodges perfectly, mix up your attacks, and use the environment to your advantage. And let me tell you, one of my favorite fights in the game is definitely the battle with the lizard. If you've played it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's not just a typical boss encounter where you're throwing punches. This fight is chaotic in the best way possible. The lizard is huge, fast, and relentless. You're fighting him in these sprawling, narrow sewer tunnels and eventually out in the open, and it's all about reacting quickly to his lunges and tail whips. He can jump at you from all angles, smash through walls, and even toss debris at you, which keeps you constantly on the move. What I love about this fight is how it makes you feel like you're really up against something dangerous. It's not just a boss, it's a full-on beast. You've got to be smart about when to go in for attacks because he'll punish you hard if you mistime anything. And when he enters his second phase, the intensity ramps up even more. You'll need to use all of your combat tools, gadgets, dodges, and even environmental objects to slow him down or stun him. Let's talk Venom. Man, what an absolute game changer. The moment you get to play as Venom in Spider-Man 2 is when you realize the devs weren't just going for the usual formula. Venom feels completely different from playing as Peter or Miles. He's bigger, stronger, and just a total force of nature. You can feel the power in every move. Unlike Spider-Man, who's all about agility, finesse, and web-slinging, Venom is this unstoppable, wrecking ball. His combat style is brutal. Heavy punches, devastating combos, and these insane symbiote abilities. You're not worrying about dodging as much because Venom can tank a lot more damage. Instead, you're focused on dishing out chaos. He can grab enemies, slam them into the ground, or even absorb them with his tendrils in some seriously vicious takedowns. What really stood out to me was the scale of destruction Venom can cause. You're not just fighting enemies, you're breaking apart the environment around you, ripping through cars, smashing walls. It's a level of mayhem that Peter and Miles can't quite reach. You feel like this powerful, uncontainable beast, and it's such a stark contrast to the more acrobatic, precision-based combat of Spider-Man. And the symbiote abilities? Unreal. Venom's tentacles give him all sorts of combat options. You can send out tendrils to grab multiple enemies at once or unleash these massive area of effect attacks that clear entire groups. He's got this monstrous leap attack that feels like a shockwave when he lands, and every move just hits so hard. It's not about speed or dodging, it's about overwhelming force, and you feel that in every encounter. Another cool thing about playing as Venom is how much more aggressive the enemies get. They know they're up against a monster, so they come at you with everything they've got, but that just makes it even more satisfying when you completely annihilate them. It's like the game shifts into overdrive when you're in control of Venom, and it's a total power fantasy. There's this underlying tension because, as much as you're enjoying the carnage, you know that Venom is dangerous. New York in Spider-Man 2? Yeah, it's definitely improved. It's still pretty much the same city you swung through in the first game, just with some upgrades here and there. The thing is, Insomniac really nailed New York the first time around, so it doesn't need to be a total reinvention. The main improvements are in the level of detail and the overall vibe. The lighting is better, the textures are crisper, and you can really see the difference in things like the water reflections, the variety of pedestrians, and how dynamic the weather effects are. The city feels more alive. It gives it a nice visual boost. That said, the map is mostly familiar. The biggest addition is probably the expansion to Queens and Brooklyn, which gives you more space to explore and some different areas to swing through. But even there, it's not like a completely new experience. They've added a few extra layers to make it feel more lived in too. More random events happening in the streets, some cool Easter eggs scattered around, and updated landmarks. But at its core, it's still that New York. So yeah, it's better, but it's not going to blow your mind if you spent hours swinging around the city in Spider-Man 2018. You'll feel right at home. And then there's the animations. My God, the animations are insane. I think we take for granted how much work went into making everything look and feel so fluid. Every punch, every swing, every dodge, it's all so tightly choreographed. Spider-Man's body moves with this kind of grace that makes you believe he really is a master acrobat. Even something as small as Peter or Miles adjusting their body mid-swing or landing from a high jump feels real, and that's hard to pull off. Then there's the combat animations. They never get old. Every finisher is unique, and the way Spider-Man reacts to the enemies he's fighting, like how he'll twist and turn to web up a guy behind him without even looking. It's little details like that which make this game feel alive. And it's not just scripted moments either. Everything feels dynamic. The way Spider-Man's body reacts to impacts, the way enemies crumble when you hit them, it all has weight and fluidity. You don't just see it, you feel it. And it's not just the animations, but how all the mechanics complement each other. The fact that you can use gadgets mid-combo without any awkward pauses shows how well designed the whole system is. You'll be in the middle of a fight, pull out a web bomb, take down multiple enemies, and instantly follow it up with a web swing kick. It's like the game is encouraging you to experiment, and no matter what you do, it just works. Even the stealth flows right into the combat. You can take out a few enemies quietly, get spotted, and then instantly transition into full combat mode without any weird delays or hiccups. It's so rare to see all these different gameplay elements, stealth, combat, traversal, work together so effortlessly. And I think we do take it for granted sometimes because it feels so natural, but when you stop and think about how hard it must be to combine all these different elements without making the game feel disjointed, it's honestly mind-blowing. It's like the devs thought of everything, how you'd want to move, how you'd want to fight, and made it all come together in one smooth, exhilarating package. That's not something every game pulls off, and it's definitely a testament to the team's vision and execution. Now, the big question you should be asking yourself is, did I make this video longer than it had to be just to show off my gameplay? Yes, I did.
Next time, do your ambushes in the streets, like normal criminals.